I never meant to keep it a secret, but some truths are too heavy to bear alone, and others are just too unbelievable to share. It's been almost a year since I moved out of that apartment, the one on Elm Street, the one with the unreasonably high ceilings and the impossibly large windows. You'd think a place like that, bathed in natural light, would be cheerful, welcoming. Instead, it felt like a meticulously crafted trap sprung the moment I signed the lease. Quick poll, would you rather see more short stories or long creepy tales? Comment now. I know many of you use these scary stories to relax and fall asleep, and I'm doing my best to grow this little channel. Share your feedback, it helps me a lot. Let me know in the comments things like, are the stories too long or too short? Do you want more sound effects? Is the narration calming enough? Your words keep me going. Now, let's dive in. It started subtly, the way these things often do. A flicker of movement in the periphery, a momentary distortion in my reflection. I'd blame it on fatigue, on the way the light hit the glass after a long day. The apartment was a loft, a converted textile factory, and it had mirrors everywhere. Not just in the bathroom, but large, antique pieces flanking the living room fireplace, a full-length cheval mirror in the bedroom, even a decorative, multi-paneled mirror adorning one entire wall of the kitchen. It was part of the charm, the agent had chirped, adding character. I thought so too, at first. The first time I saw someone other than myself, it was a fleeting image, a woman with kind eyes and auburn hair staring out of the hallway mirror as I walked past. She seemed to be looking at something over my shoulder. I stopped, turned, but there was nothing. Just the empty hallway, the worn Persian rug, the faint scent of old wood. I shook my head, attributing it to a trick of the light, a smudge on the glass. But the image lingered, a whisper of something unsettling. Then, the reflections grew clearer, more defined. While brushing my teeth, the bathroom mirror showed a man, younger than me, with a nervous tick and a faint smile, as if he'd just seen something amusing. He was wearing a faded blue t-shirt, unlike the crisp white one I was wearing. I blinked, and he was gone, replaced by my own wide-eyed, growingly unnerved face. I started avoiding my own reflection, rushing through my morning routine, keeping my gaze fixed ahead. The kitchen mirror, the one that took up almost the entire wall opposite the stove, became the most disturbing. One evening, while making pasta, I caught sight of a child, a little girl in a sundress, playing with a bright red ball. She was in a sun-drenched garden, her laughter almost audible. It was peaceful, almost nostalgic, like a scene from a forgotten home movie. But then, the ball rolled erratically, and she chased after it, her happy expression contorting into a look of terror. The image cut out before anything truly happened, leaving me with a knot of dread in my stomach. I tried talking to my friend Liam about it. Liam, ever the pragmatist, suggested I needed a vacation, that the city air was getting to me. He visited a few times, never noticing anything amiss. He'd catch his own reflection in the mirrors, a quick glance, a smile, and then he'd be back to talking about his latest coding project. It made me feel even more isolated, more convinced I was losing my mind. Was I projecting some inner turmoil onto the apartment's surfaces? The unsettling nature of the reflections began to escalate, and the glimpses became less observational, more visceral. The man in the bathroom mirror started appearing more frequently, his expression shifting from nervous to agitated, his movements jerky, as if he were reacting to something unseen. One afternoon, I saw him flinch violently, his gaze fixed on something beyond my line of sight in the reflection. He clutched his head, his knuckles white. When I looked, he was gone. But the residue of his fear, his pain, seemed to linger in the air, a faint metallic tang that I couldn't quite place. It was the bedroom mirror, the large cheval glass by the antique wardrobe, that finally broke me. I'd moved into that apartment hoping for a fresh start, a quiet sanctuary after a tumultuous period in my life. I craved peace, anonymity. Instead, I found myself trapped in a perpetual state of anxiety, waiting for the next unwelcome intrusion into my private space. I remember that night with a sickening clarity. A storm had rolled in unannounced, the kind that rattles windows and makes the old building groan. I was in bed, trying to read, but the words swam on the page, my mind a battlefield of anxieties. I kept glancing at the cheval mirror, which stood angled in a way that caught the dim light from my bedside lamp. Hey, side note before we continue. Should I add creepy sound effects in the background or keep it clean and simple? Comment your vote. Suddenly, the reflection shifted. It wasn't my face staring back, not entirely. It was a woman, her face pale and contorted in sheer terror. Her eyes, wide and frantic, were fixed on a point just behind her, in the depths of the mirrored room. I recognized the room instantly. It was mine, but not mine. It was slightly different, the furniture rearranged, a different set of curtains framing the window. She was younger than me, her blonde hair tangled, her mouth open in a soundless scream. Then I saw him, a man, his back to me, his hands wrapped around her throat. He was a shadow, indistinct, his features obscured by the darkness of the reflection. But the violence of his grip, the desperate struggle of the woman, was unmistakable. I could almost feel the pressure on her windpipe, the frantic beating of her heart. I flinched, recoiling as if struck. My own reflection was now completely gone. It was just her, fighting for her life, and him, the embodiment of pure malice. I wanted to scream, to run, but my body was frozen by a primal terror. I watched, a helpless witness, as the woman's struggles weakened, her eyes glazing over. The man's grip tightened, and then, with a sickening finality, her body went limp. My breath hitched. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. But before I could even process the horror I had just witnessed, before I could decide whether to flee or to shatter the glass with anything I could find, the reflection changed again. The man released his victim. He turned, slowly, deliberately, towards the mirror, towards me. I braced myself for a monstrous face, something utterly alien. But as he turned, his features resolved, sharpening into a terrifying, sickening familiarity. It was my face. Not my own face, not the one I saw every morning. It was my face, but twisted, malevolent, the eyes glinting with a cold, predatory hunger that I had never seen in myself. He looked at me, not through me, but directly at me, a chilling recognition in those borrowed eyes. And then he smiled, a slow, cruel smile that seemed to split his face in two. And in that moment, I heard it. A faint, almost inaudible whisper, seeming to emanate from the depths of the mirror, from the spectral woman's dying lips. A single word, spoken with the last gasp of her breath. A name that was mine, yet not mine. My name. I scrambled out of bed, a strangled cry escaping my throat. I ripped the bedside lamp from its socket, plunging the room into near darkness, the only light now the faint glow of the storm-lashed window. I didn't look back at the mirror. I couldn't. I fumbled for my keys, my phone, my coat. I didn't pack, I just ran. I haven't been back to that apartment since. I broke the lease, lost my deposit, left everything behind. But the image is seared into my mind, a constant gnawing presence. Sometimes, when I catch my reflection in shop windows, in the polished surface of my new apartment's refrigerator, for a fleeting, terrifying second, I see it. That stranger's face, wearing my features, with that same cold, predatory smile. And I wonder, with a fear that chills me to the bone, if the mirrors weren't just showing me a stranger's life, but a life that was meant to be mine. And if the person I saw in that mirror is still waiting, your support means everything. Drop a comment with your feedback, share this with someone who loves horror, and don't forget to subscribe for more chilling tales.